Jox is back, but nothing feels the same. The moment she steps back into the picture, you can almost feel the weight pressing down on her shoulders. It's not just about returning to her career or facing the people she left behind. It's about walking into a world that's been quietly shifting without her, where every choice she makes will be tested, and every relationship is hanging by a thread. The first episode wastes no time reminding us why Jox is the heart of this series. She isn't just a character trying to move forward. She's a woman carrying the scars of everything that came before. Her return isn't painted as some triumphant comeback. It's raw, messy, and almost uncomfortable to watch at times, because it mirrors the reality of what happens when you leave chaos unfinished and try to step back into a life that no longer fits neatly. Jox walks back into her professional role with a sense of control on the outside, but you can see the cracks forming underneath. The show does a brilliant job of balancing her confidence with her vulnerability. She's sharp with her words, still knows how to command a room, but the tension in her eyes and the silence between her sentences speak louder than anything she says. Her personal relationships highlight this even more. With family, there's a strain that no apology can easily mend. People remember absence more than they forgive it. And Jox is faced with the truth that her presence now doesn't erase the pain of when she wasn't there. Every conversation she has feels layered, half about the present, half about all the baggage from the past. With her colleagues, there's this subtle mix of respect and skepticism. They know Jox is brilliant, but they also wonder if she's ready, if she's steady enough to handle what's coming. That hesitation hangs in the air like smoke, reminding us that reputation only gets you so far when trust is broken. What makes this return so powerful is the way the show frames it. It doesn't give us a grand moment of victory. It gives us tension, unease, and the quiet discomfort of being watched. The camera lingers on Jox in ways that make you feel the judgment of the people around her, and in turn, you start to wonder the same things they do. Is she really ready to be back? Has she truly dealt with the storm inside her, or is she just pretending long enough to keep her place in a world that moved on without her? The first section of her return sets up the season's emotional backbone. Jox is back in the room, but it's clear she's not in control, not yet. The people around her sense weakness, opportunity, or unresolved tension, and each one of those threads is waiting to be pulled. The brilliance of this opening is that it doesn't give us certainty, it gives us doubt. And in a show called Reasonable Doubt, that's exactly where the story needs to begin. What makes Jox's return truly striking is not just her presence, but the ripple effect it causes in everyone else's world. Her home feels different, her workplace feels foreign, and even the people who once leaned on her now look at her as if she's a stranger. That shift becomes clear in the little moments, the pauses before someone answers her, the careful choice of words when they speak, the sideways glances that carry more judgment than any full sentence ever could. It's not hostility outright, it's something colder, quieter. It's distance. And distance, when it comes from people you love or once trusted, cuts deeper than open conflict. The writers lean heavily into this sense of alienation by showing us how Jox tries to bridge those gaps. She makes efforts to reconnect, to offer the version of herself that once commanded loyalty and closeness. But the response she gets is measured, almost hesitant. It's like people are testing her, waiting to see if this new Jox is stable enough to stand without collapsing. And this is where the brilliance of the show comes through. It doesn't let Jox escape from the consequences of her past choices. Instead, it forces her to sit with them, to see them reflected in the way others now treat her. She can't charm her way out, can't argue her way into forgiveness. Respect has to be earned again, and forgiveness may not come at all, at the same time. Jox's professional world doesn't wait for her to find her footing. The cases, the conflicts, the politics, they all move forward with or without her. And the more she tries to assert herself, the more she's reminded of just how fragile her position is. Colleagues who once trusted her instincts now second-guess her decisions. Friends in high places who once backed her now keep a cautious distance, as though her presence might bring trouble to their doorstep. Jox is still powerful, but the edges of that power are frayed, and every interaction becomes a subtle negotiation to prove she still belongs in the room. What makes this tension so gripping is the duality of Jox herself. On one hand, she's visibly fighting to re-establish her ground, her confidence sharp enough to cut through silence. On the other hand, the camera catches the moments when her guard slips, the quiet stare after a meeting, the clenched jaw when someone questions her, the deep breath before walking into a space she once owned. These are the moments that remind us she's not just battling those around her, she's battling herself. Doubt creeps in, whispering questions that echo louder than any outside criticism. Am I ready? Do I still have what it takes? Can I truly fix what's broken? Or am I just delaying the inevitable collapse? The episode makes it clear that Jox's greatest challenge isn't just Ozzie's schemes or the legal drama swirling around her. Her biggest fight is with her own reflection. Every step she takes is shadowed by the ghosts of choices she can't undo, and the weight of expectations she can't fully meet. This is where the story finds its depth by showing us a woman who is both a powerhouse and a prisoner of her own past. Her strength is real, but so are her cracks. And in a world where people are quick to exploit weakness, those cracks are dangerous. By the end of this stretch of the episode, the question isn't whether Jox is back. She is back, undeniably. The real question is whether she can survive in a landscape that's no longer built for her. She has the intelligence, the resilience, and the fire. But is that enough when the trust is gone, the support has thinned, and the enemies smell blood in the water? That's the tension the show locks us into, and it's what makes her return not just dramatic, but deeply unsettling. We're not watching a hero reclaim her throne, we're watching a survivor try to stand in a world that may no longer want her there. The brilliance of Jox's return isn't just about how she feels stepping back into her life, it's about the battles that quietly spark the moment she does. The people around her don't come at her head. Instead, they press against her in quieter, more calculated ways. A colleague interrupts her mid-thought in a meeting, as if testing whether she assert herself or let it slide. A supposed ally shares information just a beat too late, forcing her to play catch-up in conversations where she once led with ease. These aren't accidents, they're signals. Everyone is watching to see if Jox still has the sharpness, the control, the fire to survive in this space, or if she's just a ghost, trying to fit into a body that's already moved on without her. And Jox notices. She may be bruised, she may be vulnerable, but she's not blind. She clocks every shift in tone, every subtle dismissal, every smirk that lingers too long when someone challenges her authority. The show paints her in these moments as both predator and prey, keenly aware of the traps around her, but also forced to tread carefully because one wrong move could confirm the doubts people already whisper behind her back. That's where the tension builds. She can't lash out like she used to, because she's on thin ice, but she also can't shrink, because shrinking would mean surrender. So she exists in this dangerous middle ground, balancing her pride and her survival, trying to carve out space in a room where the walls are slowly closing in. Her personal life mirrors this silent war. Family dinners turn into interrogations disguised as small talk. Friends ask questions with smiles, but the undertones feel like accusations. Even moments of intimacy where she should find peace are shadowed by unspoken resentment. The message is clear. Everyone has an opinion about her return, and none of those opinions are neutral. For some, her comeback feels like unfinished business. For others, it feels like an inconvenience. And Jox, trapped between their expectations and her own fragile sense of stability, has to navigate each interaction like she's walking through a minefield. But here's where the show digs deeper. Jox is not just surviving these silent attacks, she's strategizing. You can almost see her mind working in real time, measuring people, storing away their weaknesses, recalibrating her own tactics. She doesn't have the luxury of being reckless anymore. Instead, she's forced into a slower, more deliberate game, where every smile she offers is a mask, and every concession she makes is just setting up a larger count. This is Jox at her most dangerous, not because she's at her strongest, but because she's learning how to weaponize her vulnerability. She knows the people around her underestimate her, and she's willing to let them, just long enough to turn that underestimation into an opening. By the end of this section of her arc, it's clear that Jox's return isn't about reclaiming the life she lost, it's about reshaping it into something sharper, something that can survive the scrutiny and betrayal circling her. The silent wars around her are more dangerous than any courtroom battle because they attack the very foundation of who she is. Yet, in the same breath, they ignite a different kind of fire in her. This isn't the Jox who once moved through life with untouchable confidence. This is a Jox who has been broken, watched her world crumble, and come back with scars she refuses to hide. And it's precisely those scars that might make her the most formidable she's ever been. The brilliance of the writing here is that it doesn't spoon-feed us a clear path forward. Instead, it leaves us unsettled. Jox is back, yes, but she's standing in a storm where every ally could be a traitor, every family member a reminder of her failings, and every colleague a potential rival. The wars aren't loud, they're quiet, creeping, and suffocating. And that silence, that's what makes them deadly. What makes Jox fascinating in this stage of her return isn't simply her Resilience, it's the way she transforms under pressure, quietly but unmistakably. She knows she can't go back to being the woman she was before. That version of Jox was brilliant, yes, but she was also reckless. Fragile beneath the surface, and far too trusting of people who didn't deserve her loyalty. Season 3 makes it clear, if Jox is going to stand in this world again, she has to become something entirely different. And that transformation doesn't happen in loud declarations or dramatic speeches. It happens in the quiet moments when she's alone, wrestling with herself, making decisions that will change not just how others see her, but how she sees herself. The first layer of this transformation is acceptance. Jox begins to understand that not everyone will forgive her. Not every bridge can be rebuilt, and not every space she once owned will be returned to her. Instead of wasting energy trying to win everyone back, she starts to shift her focus to what actually matters. The people who truly stand with her, the battles worth fighting, and the parts of herself that no longer serve her survival. It's not an easy process. The pain is still raw. The shame still lingers, but Jox chooses to stop running from it. She faces it, absorbs it, and begins to use it as fuel. The second layer is strategy. If the earlier episodes showed her being tested and second-guessed, this phase shows her quietly sharpening her tools. She watches, listens, and takes notes in silence, learning how the new power dynamics work without rushing to force herself into the center. This patience is new for Jox. In earlier seasons, she might have charged headfirst into conflict, letting her brilliance and confidence carry her through. But now, she understands that survival requires more than raw talent. It requires timing, precision, and the ability to move when others least expect it. This subtle shift makes her dangerous in a new way. She's no longer playing defense. She's preparing for offense, and she's willing to take her time. The third layer is identity. Jox has always been defined by what others needed from her. Her clients needed her strength. Her family needed her presence. Her colleagues needed her brilliance. But now, stripped of the certainty of their approval, she's forced to ask herself a harder question. What do I need from myself? This internal struggle gives her return its emotional depth. She's not just clawing her way back to the top for the sake of power or pride. She's searching for a version of herself that can stand even when everything else collapses. And that search forces her to make choices that might alienate people further, but also push her closer to becoming the woman she was always meant to be. By the time this section of her journey comes to a close, Jox feels different, not fully rebuilt, but undeniably reshaped. The fractures that once looked like weaknesses now resemble the lines of a new foundation. Something sturdier and less likely to break under pressure. She may not have won everyone back. She may not even want to anymore. What she does have is clarity. She knows who she is. She knows who's really with her. And she knows that the battles ahead won't just test her as a lawyer or as a leader. They'll test her as a woman who refuses to be defined by her mistakes. And that's the genius of Jox. Return in Season 3. It isn't about recapturing the past. It's about forging a new future. One built on scars instead of illusions. She's still flawed, still complicated, still capable of being pulled apart by her own emotions, but that's what makes her dangerous now. Because a Jox who has nothing left to prove to anyone but herself. That's a Jox who cannot be easily controlled, manipulated, or broken. The storms around her may grow louder, the enemies may grow sharper, and the betrayals may cut deeper, but in the shadows of her own transformation, Jox is quietly becoming something stronger than she's ever been before. By the end of episode 1, we realize that the question isn't whether Jox is ready. The real question is whether the world around her is ready for this new version of Jox, because if her transformation holds, then everyone who doubted her is about to learn that Jox back in the game isn't just a return, it's a reckoning.